Welcome, folks. My name is Tom Beatty. I am the chair of the Web Design and Development program at Newmont College of Computer Science, and today we're going to learn about Express using Node.js.
Okay, today we're going to work with Express again, but we're going to use it with Pug. And Pug is a view engine that allows you to dynamically generate HTML pages. You can do templates for a website and have all the pages use those templates. Let's go into it and you'll see some of the cool things that we can do here. So I've already set up a folder called Express with Pug. Now I need to set up a new project, so I'm going to say npm init, and it wants to call it Express with Pug. I'm fine with that. Take the default for version. Not going to bother with a description. Entry point is index.js. Don't care about test commands or git repos right now or keywords. Well, I guess I'll put myself in for the author. And default license. Is this okay? Yes. And it's generated my package.json. You can see it up here as well. And now I need to install the packages that I'm going to be needing. And so I'll do npm I, or I could write out install if I want to. And I need two packages. I'm going to need Express, and I'm going to need Pug. And I can just use a space as a separator, and it will install both of those. So let's hit enter. Our installation process has begun. It will add those as dependencies in the package.json. And that's all installed. We've got our node modules. Our package.json is now all set up. Let's create some things. So I need an index.js. We know that. And I'm going to create some other things too. I'm going to add a few new folders. We're going to create a routes folder. And inside that, let's create a routes.js that we'll use to keep things kind of tidy. Now I'm going to click out here so that I can add some more folders on this top directory. I want a public folder, and that's going to be for static files, files that are not being dynamically generated. You can use that to store image files. If you've got a CSS file, that's what we're going to be using it for. That would go in the public folder. If you were going to do some front-end JavaScript, that too would go inside the public folder. And last but not least, I'm going to add a views folder. Now I created a views file. That's not what I want. Let's go ahead and create a views folder. Now I've created the views folder inside of routes. I don't want it there, so I want to drag it out and move it to the same level as the routes folder. So I've got my public folder, my routes folder, my views folder, node modules, index.js, and I'm going to add one more thing here just to make things interesting. I'm going to create a config file, and it's going to be called config.json. And that JSON file, I'm going to use that to create a menu system that can be dynamically altered and very easily edited. So let's go to our index.js. Let me make the text a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. So index.js, I'm going to start by creating a const express equals require. We did this in the previous video. And we are bringing in Express. We also want Pug. So let's require that. I'm going to add path as well. Path is a built-in package though, so you don't actually have to install that. It's part of Node automatically. And then we've got our routes.js. Let's go ahead and require that as well. /routes/routes, which will get our routes.js. You don't actually have to put the .js on there. And then const config require dot config, and that will read our config.json. You don't have to put the JSON on there either. Now let's set up our app. So we've got our Express app created and defined. Now we're going to set a few things about our app, a couple of properties. We're going to do an app.set and set our view engine. And our view engine that we're going to be using is Pug. And we'll do another app.set, and we're going to say where the views are going to be stored. Those are the different Pug templates and pages that we're going to create. Those are going to be stored in a views folder. And so we're going to do _ dir name. So it's going to take the project directory name plus /views. Let's put some space in there to make it a little easier to read. And we also want to define where static pages are going to go, and that's going to go in our public folder. And so we're going to say express.static path.join _ dir name. And that's going to be in the public folder. Okay. That's a lot of what we need to get everything set up and working. Let me do app.get. If someone goes to the root page, then we will go to routes.index. And I think let's leave that for now and just add an app.listen. And we'll listen to port 3000. Okay, that's saved. Let's go to routes. So here what we want to do is we want to say what happens when someone goes to the index. So we're going to say exports index equals request respond. And instead of response.send, which is what we've been doing before, we're going to do response.render, because we're going to generate a page. The page we're going to generate is going to be the index, and that's going to be index.pug, which we haven't created yet, but we will. And I think let's stop right there. And I will save that. Now, so what happens is when we go to / or the top level, in this case it'll be localhost :3000, it's going to run index from routes. And so we look at routes, index is going to do a render of index.pug. So let's create some views here. I'm going to go into my views folder, and I'm going to create a layout.pug, which is kind of a basic template that we're going to use. And I'm going to create an index.pug. And so let's start out with the layout. Now, the way Pug works is it's kind of a shorthand of HTML, but has a lot of extras thrown in. And so to use this, I'm just going to start out and I'm going to say doc type HTML. Now you don't actually use open and close tags in Pug. Instead you use indents to designate what's inside something else. And so to designate the head, we've got our head, I just tab in. The body would be at the same level. And inside the body, I'm tabbing in again. I'm putting a header. Now, an important thing to know about Pug is that you can use tabs or spaces. You cannot use tabs and spaces. You have to use one or the other, or you'll get all kinds of errors. So the header is inside the body. I'm going to tab in again, and maybe put a nav in there. And inside the nav, I could say, put whatever I want. Create an unordered list if I wanted to. And I could have a list item. And maybe in that list item, I could say home. Maybe have another list item, about, another list item, contact. Then if I want to, at the same level as the header, I could create a section, and I could put information in this section. I could say we're going to use this template. We're going to plug in a block, and we'll call that content. And then maybe we've got a footer at the bottom. Okay, so again, no open and close tags. It doesn't need them because it's using these indents to determine. So we've got the header. The nav is inside the header. The unordered list is inside the nav. The list items are inside the unordered list. The section is at the same level as the header, but is in the body just like the header is. And then we have this block content. And that's going to make more sense soon because this is where we're going to take content from the index.pug and we're going to plug it in to this template that we've built here. And then we've got a footer. So I'm going to save that right now and I'm going to work on the index. And the index, the first thing I need to do is just say extends layout. So it's going to look at the layout. It's going to use that template for this index page. Then I can say block content, and inside block content I can put what's going to be on this page, what's going to make this page unique. And so I will say paragraph, this is my homepage, and make sure you put a space between your paragraph and your text so that it knows that those are different things. And that's good enough for now, I think. It's very simple, but hopefully we'll do what we want. So let's get this started. I showed you NodeMon in a previous video, so let's go ahead and run NodeMon. Oh, we got ourselves an error. Let's see, unexpected end of JSON input. Oh, okay, so I had imported a JSON file. Let's, just for now, comment that out. Okay, so it's restarting, it's happy. And now let's go to localhost 3000. Ooh, there we go. And you can see it's putting in our little placeholder menu system. That's all in there, it's working, and then it plugs in that this is my home page from the index. And it's actually generating an HTML file as far as, it's not really creating a file per se, but it's generating that content as far as the browser is concerned. So if I hit F12 and I open up my console, you'll notice I'm getting an error here. That's okay. That error is it's looking for my fave icon. I haven't actually created a fave icon. That's like these little icons that you have to designate it would show up there. You can create one if you want, but it doesn't make any difference. I will get this error, but I can ignore it. But if I look at elements, I can see, look, it actually has generated that nav that I told it to with the unordered list and all the different items, that section, and in the section, it took the block content from my index.js, or excuse me, index.pug, and it plugged it in to the block content area here. And so it built the page essentially dynamically using this layout as a template. Okay, we can do cooler things. So first thing I think I want to do is let's put some styling in just to make it a little nicer. So I'm going to say link href equals style.css. And remember, we haven't created a style.css, but I mentioned that CSS files would go in the public folder. So as far as this content in Pug is concerned, when you say href style.css, it's going to look for static files inside the public folder automatically. And so I don't need to say public / style.css. So rel style sheet, and that should be good. What I need to do now is in my public folder, I'm going to create a style.css. And this is not a class in Style Sheets. This is not a tutorial for Style Sheets, but I will very quickly go ahead and just write some basics. So we'll give it a black background, white text, padding 20 pixels. In the future, I'm going to use a class, and I'm going to call that menu item, because I'm going to make my menu items kind of cool. Well, better than what I've got currently, at least. Let's make it inline block. We'll put a border around our menu item, say 1 pixel solid white with a width of 80 pixels, margin of 5 pixels. Oh, I'm missing. There we go. Margin of 5 pixels, padding of 5 pixels, text align, let's center the text. We'll give, these are going to be my menu items, they're going to be buttons. They're really going to be divs that look like buttons, but close enough. Let's put a background. I'm going to put 428, give us kind of an indigo color. And just since they are buttons, let's make it so you can't select the text on them. At least they're going to act like buttons. Let's modify list items so that the style is none, and that will get rid of the little bullet point. And then on A tags, let's modify the text decoration to none. That will get rid of the underline, and we'll change the color to white. There we go. All right, enough CSS. See what we did. Okay, a lot of things aren't being affected yet. For instance, we're not actually seeing these lining up and in nice little boxes because they're not part of the menu item class yet. We'll fix that, I suppose, temporarily at least. I could go into the layout. I could make them part of that, but I'll wait. I've got some better things I want to do. Let's go into our config.json and let's actually build the items for the menu. And so I'm going to go ahead and create a nice some JSON content here. This is going to be a JavaScript object. Remember, JSON stands for JavaScript object notation. And so I'm going to build a menu, and that menu is going to be an array, and it's going to be an array of arrays. So in each element of the array, it's going to contain another array. And so we will have home, and home is actually, we're going to put the name of it, what's going on the button, as well as the path, which is where it sends it to you. So when you hit the home button, it's going to send you to /, which is the home, or the root link. And then we'll have an about, which will send you to the about page. And finally, a contact me page that's going to send you to contact. All right, so here's my menu system. I've got it as a JSON file, which means now I can load that in. I no longer need this to be commented out. So I can hit Control/ using VS Code, and it will get rid of the 2 slashes, and that's no longer commented out. It's valid code, and will run. Okay, so that's all working. Now, I need to do some other things just to make everything work the way that I need it to. Let's go over into our routes. And what we have been doing is we've been going and we're rendering out index, which is good. But I want to give more information there. So I'm going to pass in an object. And in this object, I can I'm going to pass config over to config. Now, at the moment, routes doesn't know what config is. I'm going to remove this from my index, and I'm going to put it here. So my config.json will actually load here. Now, I need 2 dots because the routes file is inside a routes directory. So it needs to, the 2 dots says step up 1 directory, and then it'll read the config.json. And what I'm doing here is I am passing this object into my index.pug. So it's going to take the contents of config.json and it's going to plug it in to a config variable, which will then be able to be read inside pug. So I'm going to jump over to my layout and show you what I can do with that. Well, let me save this first. So inside the layout, I can now make several changes. I'm going to get rid of all of these. And I'm going to use inside pug an each. And this works like a for each. And I just say each item in config.menu. And the reason it's .menu is because, again, if we look at our config.json, we'll see that I created a menu variable that is an array from there, and it contains these other 3 arrays. So I'm going to come back here. This is acting like a for each. I can tab in, and I can say A, which is an anchor tag, href equals item 1. And so if you think about it, this is going through, it's going to loop through each one of these because it acts like a for each. And item 1, those are the paths for each one of these. Item 0 would be the names. So we come back here, we're creating an A tag, we are making links, and it knows what path it is because it's reading that from our config. Then I'm going to create a div. And this div is actually going to act like a button. It's going to be part of the class menu item. Remember, we set that up in the style.css. And inside there, we'll put our list item. And I could give it an ID if I wanted to give unique IDs. I could say list item 0. And then, since this is outside the parameters, I can also inject item 0 out here, so it actually puts the names on the buttons. And you do that by using the octothorpe with an open curly brace and closed curly brace. The variable in here will be plugged in. So I'm going to save that. It works very much like string templating in regular JavaScript, except we're using an octothorpe, or pound symbol, hashtag, whatever you want to call it. So So I'm going to hit save now. Now I've got some buttons. If I click on this button, it appears nothing happens, but it is actually reloading the page. But it doesn't know what to do with About or Contact Me. We can fix that. So to fix that, I just need to add some views. And I can say contact.pug and about.pug. And so for about.pug, I could do extends, layout, block content, tab, paragraph. This is my about page. Save that. And I'll be lazy. Copy that. This is my contact page. And you might come back here and think, all right, cool, it's all working. Oh, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because we've only taught it what to do when you do a slash. If you do a slash, it runs routes.index. If I want an about and a contact, I need to teach it what to do when someone goes to /about or /content. Or /contact, excuse me. So let's create an about and a contact. Then in routes, let's say about contact. And this can also be used with params, which we've talked about in previous videos, but let's see here. I've got an error somewhere. Let's see what I did. Oh, I haven't changed these names either. Let's do about and contact. There we go. And so that's working. And I could get a little fancier. Like, for instance, if I wanted to, inside this section here, I could add, let's add an H1 tag. And maybe that H1 tag contains a title. As a matter of fact, I could even set the title up here so that it changes the title on the tab. And you'll notice here I'm showing two different ways that I can set the values. I can make title equal title, or I can do this H1 tag and use the octothorpe and curly braces. Okay, so I'll save that. And we need to pass in title. So I can just go over, let's go to each of those routes. And in addition to config, I can pass in title. And so on the index, the title might be home. Make sure you put a comma in there. On the about, we can call it about. And again, remembering that comma. And then we put our title in and contact me. And those are all just being injected in to this layout as the title. Okay, well, those are some of the basics for Express and Pug. Pug is a whole lot more powerful than this. There are a lot of other things that you can do. I would urge you to take a look at their documentation. But this is a good start. All right, if you like this video, please hit subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. I will provide more content in the future and keep it entertaining for you. Thanks a lot.